All right, good morning all, and welcome to another ShareWise webinar. My name is Harry Ma. I'm an investment manager here at the firm. Today we're very fortunate to be joined by Lachlan Star CEO Andrew Tyrrell. Andrew, a very good morning to you. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Harry. Nice to meet you.
Andrew will provide a business update following a Q&A as well. And as always, we encourage all participants to put forward some questions for discussion. And again, this webinar will be recorded. So if you can't view the entire viewing, you can find it on our ShareWise YouTube channel. So Andrew, over to you. We'll hear your presentation and then we'll get into some Q&As.
Thanks, Harry. I'll just share my screen now. Okay.
Yeah, we got that.
Perfect. I'll just move that away. All right. So just an introduction to Lachlan Star. Lachlan Star is a gold and copper explorer. We have a great suite of really high-profile projects in some well-endowed, well-known mineral provinces within Australia. So the Lachlan Fold Belt in New South Wales, as well as the Eastern Goldfields of WA. We are explorers, we're geologists by background, and we actually have a passion for discovery. And we're really looking for that big company maker. That's what we're really chasing right here. And obviously along the way, hopefully to make a couple of people get some big multi-baggers out of it as we make those discoveries. So on with the presentation. This presentation you can find on our website as well as the ASX platform. You can look at it at your leisure. If we just do a quick corporate overview, we have a market cap of about between 10 to 15 million, depending on where we sit on each day. We have a very small management team. Really, it's just myself and Alan Hawkins. Both of us are exploration geologists. We both have a background with the big multinational gold mining companies. We've worked in many jurisdictions, and we've both been fortunate enough to lead and be a part of some successful discovering teams along the way. When we look at our major shareholders, the top 20 is mostly held by both DevEx, who own 30% of the company. That comes out of a deal that was struck about 18 months ago, where DevEx vended out its gold and copper assets into Lachlan Star, so the New South Wales portfolio that we have. The directors and management team also have a stake in the business, close to 6% there, as well as we're fortunate enough to have Tim Goyder on the registry. So Tim is a well-known mining entity in the business. He's part of Chalice and Liontown and their success, and he is a big advocate of the company, a big supporter of the company, the projects, and most importantly of the team as well. Cash on hand, we've got about 2.5 million cash on hand, enough to see us through our exploration programs over the coming months. And we're really well positioned, I think, for any kind of leverage around potential discovery based on having a small market cap and a tightly held share registry. When we talk to just the highlights, so as I mentioned, we're really a gold and copper focused explorer. We've got a really good pipeline of projects, a number of drill ready targets that we're actually working through as I speak. We'll see over the coming months, there'll be a series of drill ready programs that we're looking to drill. So our news flows will be quite strong over the coming months. And our tenure is quite well positioned, as I mentioned, and I'll go into a bit more detail on the next slide on that. But really our approach to exploration, we both come, Al and I, from the big majors, so we understand what good exploration looks like. We understand, getting on ground, drill testing those targets, turning over targets with the aim of obviously increasing our potential for discovery. So we know how to do that work, and we also know how to obviously effectively allocate capital to undertake that kind of exploration. We just quickly look at the portfolios. So obviously on the East Coast here, we have our Lachlan Fold Belt. In the Lachlan Fold Belt, we have two clusters of projects. We have the Cobar tenements, a well-endowed polymetallic province. We've also got the Juni-Ballura North projects in the Macquarie arc of the Lachlan Fold Belt, a well-known jurisdiction for your big copper-gold porphyry systems, your epithermals and VMS-type systems as well as we've got Killaloe, a project that's really well located in the Eastern Goldfields, one we are actively looking to drill right now. So our projects in their entirety are all very well located. They're near existing operations. They're in well-endowed provinces, and we're really excited by the potential, the opportunities that those projects have for significant discovery. I'll jump straight into the Killaloe project. This is the one that we are actively drilling as I speak. So middle to late last week, we had the rig out on the property. We were able to get out there relatively quick. We obviously had to have the hurdles of heritage as well as the environmental permitting. Successfully got through those, got on ground, and we're now actively drilling this project as I speak. So the priorities here on the right-hand side, you can see a bit of a project level map that shows the key prospects we'll be looking to drill test over the coming month or so. And really the key theme here is that we've got a number of high potential gold targets that I'm really keen to drill test and see what they can deliver. We're going to start at one we call the Duke prospect. This prospect was one we identified through a review of historic drill data. It was drilled in the 1980s, 1990s. The explorers back then intersected a series of 20 to 25 meter, 1 to 2 gram intercepts over those 20 to 25 meters, so 25 gram meters to plus. This drilling has really not been touched in the better part of 20 to 25 years. And interestingly enough, we see that there's a lot of opportunity to see whether this system has some depth extensions to it. It occurs from surface, so we know that it has potential to be an open pitable type deposit if it exists. And excitingly, the potential here is that we've got an existing well-defined system, and really we're looking to exploit this system or identify if this system's got some strike extents and depth extents to it as well. Up at the Duchess prospect to the north, immediate north, what we see up there is a nice coherent gold and soil anomaly. We also get a number of plus 1 gram to 3 gram rock chips through there, and they are basically testing what we see as some late-stage felsic intrusive quartz feldspar porphyry dikes. Those kind of systems you see on other big well-endowed deposits. Your analogs would be your Cananabel, your Jubilee, and your Daisy Milano, so big, multi-million ounce gold systems. So interestingly enough, that area has seen very minimal drill testing. There is one RC hole that goes in to test that porphyry. That returned 48 meters at 0.3, including up to 7 grams within the porphyry. So we know that that has the potential for some high-grade intersections. And interestingly enough, when you get these big porphyry dike systems, they tell you that there's a big feeder structure there. And the fact that we get the gold with the porphyry within a favorable greenstone terrain, it's really quite appealing for us to go out there and drill test that. So it's quite an exciting target. As we move eastward to the Killaloe prospect, that is a series of historic shafts and pitlets exploited at the turn of the previous century. And what the old timers were chasing was gold, high-grade gold in quartz veins. They exploited those to about the water table. Obviously, they couldn't mine below the water table, stopped, and obviously a lot of these shafts then obviously finish at the water table. So interestingly enough, what we see when we ourselves sample these sort of quartz veins through that area, they return up to 13 grams per ton. Historically, we've seen up to 60 grams per ton in those rock chips as well. And it occurs over 2.5 kilometers in strike. So a sizable system area, and one we'll look to chase up. We also get a nice coherent golden soil anomaly across through there as well, as you'd expect. So we'll look to drill that. As we move sort of east and south, we get down to what we call the Cashel prospect in the south there. This is another very exciting project I like, or prospect I like. It's again a series of historic rock chips. They go up to 1,000 grams per ton in those historic rock chips. Again, very minimal drill testing through there, a nice large coherent golden soil anomaly, and it occurs in a very favorable geological position. It's at the boundary between two geological sequences and very similar to what we see along that whole corridor, that whole strike length, as well as all the way up under Lake Cowan to the north, where we've got what we call there is the Baloo prospect, or in our mine. It was obviously mined by Westgold, but previously discovered by Sirius. So we've got a series of really good quality drill gold targets here. And as I mentioned, we're actively now drilling, starting at the Duke. We'll move north, and then we'll move east, and we'll move south. We just zoom quickly into the Duke prospect. On the right-hand side, you can see the extent of the historical drilling. These are the drill collars from the 80s and 90s. There are 3 RC holes from the early 2000s, and that's the extent of drilling there. And those historic drilling has identified, gold over 250 to 300 meters in strike length, starting from surface, going to about 40, 50 meters, and it goes up to, 1 gram to 2 grams across that whole interval. So some good intersections. And again, we feel that there's a potential here for either a series of stack type shoots, potential geometries, as well as some, it's open along strike the north and south, where the historic RAB lines actually do end in mineralization as well. And laterally to the east and the west, we also see that the system is open too. So there's a good opportunity here, as I mentioned, to really kind of test this system to understand what the true size potential is. And of course, we'll see how big that gold footprint looks like. The guys are out there right now on this project, or this prospect, drilling it. And as I mentioned, we'll prioritize the RC, and we've also got some air core planned here they really step out and test along strike for the system. If we just step back and look at why we like Killaloe, it sits within a very well-known part of the Eastern Goldfields. It's within a domain that contains the same type of geology and structure as well as what we see up at Higginsville all the way up to St. Ives. So we know it's got the potential to host similar style systems in that type of geology. It also sits adjacent to the Zuleika Shear. And what we see with the Zuleika Shear along its whole strike length, it's a major control for some big gold deposits along that corridor. Interestingly enough, both Baloo and Muscat were discoveries made in the 2010s, and that just shows that there is potential for some new modern discoveries in that area. And despite its location, surprisingly, it's very much underdone when we talk to the amount of drilling over the tenement. So past explorers were mostly focused on nickel and only a smidgen of gold. So interesting enough for me, I find it quite exciting. We're ring fenced by both two mid-tier operators. We've got Westgold there in yellow. We've got Norseman Pantoro there in red. And the great thing about our location is that it's very proximal to infrastructure. So it doesn't take much for us to obviously make some, leverage some potential out of this. We only have to find, a small to moderate size type deposit. Obviously, we're chasing the big ones, but, we know that we can monetize. Both of those mills are very hungry. Even if we found a small oxide deposit, a great location to kind of truck that resource too. So we're quite excited by this project and its potential. If I step eastward now over to the Lachlan Fold Belt in New South Wales, the North Cobar project. This was a project we actively worked up early last year as well as the start of this year. The Cobar projects, there's two of them. There's the northern tenements, which is there in the north, as you can see, that contain the known prospects we've defined. We've also recently pegged the central Cobar Basin as well, which we'll work up in the coming year. But today I'm going to talk to North Cobar. What we see with this terrain is that it's the well-known structures here, the basin-bounding structures, Buckwaroon and the Rookery Fault, both contain high-grade big deposits. Along the Rookery Fault Zone, you get the big polymetallic copper gold systems, such as CSA Mine and Peak Perseverance. On Buckwaroon, it's a major control for the Endeavour Mine, which is more of a lead zinc deposit. The great thing about our tenements to the north, it's actually located over the intersection of both these big major regional structures. And we know globally, wherever you see big, well-endowed structures, big mining camps, they occur along the whole strike length of these structural corridors. They don't just terminate. So for us, it was quite exciting getting in here from a first principles point of view, contain the right geology, the right structure. So we actively got on ground. We did a series of, model gravity data collection, IP data collection, some surface geochem and some magnetic modeling. And we've now defined a nice suite of drill targets, of which all are now drill ready as well. So we received the permits to drill these. And I actually have the guys heading out here, later this month to get the drill pads cleared with the aim to be drilling this as soon as we are able to after Killaloe. What I really like about these targets, and I'll talk to Percival's in particular, on the bottom right-hand side there, that's just a different view of that same regional setting. You've got in the background Perseverance and CSA Mine along the Rookery Fault corridor. To the right-hand side there, you've got the Buckwaroon Fault. So in the foreground, you've got our targets. Percival there sits within the same structural corridor as Peak and CSA Mine. And interestingly enough, it sits within a structural position of a series of parallel faults, some step over structures. These are the exact same type of structural settings you see down at CSA Mine, the scale of which is also comparable to CSA Mine, so it occurs over 1 kilometre. And structure is pretty much key for the Cobar Basin. We know it controls mineralisation here. And for us, it's great that we've got a coincident gravity anomaly as well as an IP anomaly that occurs over 400 metres over 3 lines, right within that structural position. So it ticks all the boxes in terms of containing structure, geology, and geophysics. Excuse me. Interestingly enough, the response in our chargeability, which talks potential sulfide mineralisation, is upwards of 20 millivolts per volt. And we know, looking at the copper-rich systems of the Cobar Basin, the 20 to 30 millivolt per volt is the sweet spot for those type of systems. So it fits nicely within that. And it starts from a depth of about 100 meters. Most recent discoveries, such as Federation, was a 23 millivolt per volt discovery that was blind to surface, so there was no geochemical footprint at surface. So it gives us some, I guess, confidence that the target here is quite exciting and one worth chasing up. On the left-hand side there, I've got a cross-section of the CSA mine. That just shows that these ore bodies occur to great depths. They occur as chute-like geometries. And what I'll do is I'll overlay that on the southernmost line to show you that our personal target can contain a CSA type ore body. So again, there on the left-hand side is that southern IP chargeability line. That red blob there is your chargeability feature. That's interpreted to be sulfide mineralization. The red blob on the left-hand side is your high gravity anomaly, interpreted to be alteration. And what we've done is we've overlaid the CSA ore body, a 1-for-1, to show you that it can contain a CSA type ore body within the shell of that chargeability. And the great thing is, as I mentioned, it fits right within that sweet spot in terms of the chargeability response being 20 millivolts per volt. It occurs at a reasonable depth to test, so it starts from about 150 meters below surface. And it also occurs coincidentally with a very high angle, low resistivity feature, which we interpret to be a fault or a plumbing structure. So it ticks all the features of what I would consider to be a copper-rich Cobar type deposit. So I'm quite excited to get out there and drill test that. If we step over to the Galahad prospect, so there's two parts to this. There's Galahad North, which is circled there on the left-hand side. There's also Galahad South. Again, these were very strong gravity features. Gravity, again, is interpreted to represent alteration. We did 3 lines of IP surveying over both of these. And again, we returned a nice sort of coincident chargeable feature. What we see with these ones is that the chargeability is a little less stronger, so 6 millivolts per volt. But interestingly enough, your gold-rich systems have a lower chargeability response because they're more dominated by your gold and your copper and less so by your other sort of base metal sulfides. So for us, again, we have a feature that sits within a structural corridor. So obviously you can control fluids and mineralizing systems. It has the right gravity feature. It has the right chargeability feature, and is one that we'll look to drill test again as soon as we are able to. We just step across quickly to the Cobar South one, so the one on the left. And again, similar type features here. The interesting thing about this one is that the geometry of it, the shape of it, is more arcuate. And we also get a magnetic low feature with that. So magnetic lows can represent destruction due to alteration or non-magnetic pyrrhotite. Again, all good indicators for Cobar type systems, and one we are keen to drill test in the coming months. And just quickly, I'll round out with June and the Basin Creek prospect. So this was one we identified middle of last year. So it was a series of high-grade copper intersections in drill core from the 1970s. Hadn't seen any follow-up drill testing in over 50 years. And we're obviously and I'll go into details into those sort of high-grade intersections. The project is located within the Macquarie arc of the Lachlan Fold Belt. So this is where we're seeing the big copper gold porphyry systems, the copper gold silver sulfidation systems, as well as VMS type systems, polymetallic ones. It's obviously an area that's seen a lot of activity in the last 12, 24 months. The majors have really taken an interest in acquiring the bigger assets. We saw Newmont take out Newcrest, Evolution, obviously with North Parks. We're also seeing a lot of exploration activity. So for us, we see there's a lot of potential here for further copper gold discovery, which is why we really like our 10-year holdings through here. With the Basin Creek prospect, we think it has a large copper footprint, one that is ready to drill. So we've done one phase of drilling, of diamond drilling. We've got some good copper intersections, and we'll look to follow that up with a second phase of drilling. Again, it's drill ready. It's just a matter of timing now relative to both Killaloe and North Cobar in terms of when we get on ground to drill it. So this is just a snapshot. It's a bit of an isometric view that shows where the drill coverage is. So down there on the sort of the bottom left-hand side, you can see those black diamonds are the historic diamond core from the 1970s. What we came to realize when we looked at this is that drill core had only been assayed up to 15% of that total core. So that meant over 85% of that core was unsampled and unassayed. And interestingly, they returned up to 21 meters at 4.5%. So the TDH labeled holes are the old historic holes. So that was the intersection that really excited us. It included 4.6 meters at 18% copper. So quite a stellar intersection. In the drill program we did 6 drill holes. Every single drill hole intersected copper sulfide mineralization. Our best intersections were almost 80 meters at 0.5% copper, 21 meters at 1.2% copper, and 9 at 3% copper. So it shows that it does have potential for some economic type grades. And what really got us excited by it was, okay, they didn't replicate that historic intersection, but when we look at it as a system, we see that it occurs, the copper and soil anomaly occurs over 1.4 kilometers in strike. We conducted in-hole IP, superficial IP, and we were able to demonstrate a 1-for-1 correlation between that copper sulfide mineralization and the IP chargeability. And when we conducted the surface IP, the place lit up like a Christmas tree. So what we see over that 1.4 kilometers in strike is a very strong IP chargeability feature, of which the better portion is undrilled and untested. When we go to invert this data to understand what is the size and scale of it, we see that there's a lot of upside to this project. So this is a long sectional view looking through the prospect, looking westward. So on the left-hand side there, you can see the extent of drilling, both ours and historically. And what we've come to realize is that we've drilled what I'll call a smaller contained IP anomaly that's close to surface. And that's due to potential fault that's uplifted it and exposed it. But to the north, we see a chargeability feature that is 10 times an order of magnitude greater. So it is a massive chargeability feature. We know that chargeability relates to copper sulfide mineralization. So we're very keen to get some drill holes out here and test this. And it won't require too much to get, a good understanding as what it might contain. So the aim would be to have this drill tested sometime this year. And again, it's just a matter of priority relative to the other projects that we have on the go. And then I guess an interesting point is that the chargeability does continue to depth. The limitation of IP from surface is 250 meters. So it's highly likely that the system has some great depth extents and roots to it. And the upside here is fantastic, I think. So it just requires some drill testing to understand what we've got. So when we look at the portfolio and where the project and the company's at, in terms of news flows catalysts, we've got a lot of on-ground active programs over the coming months. We're actively drilling Killaloe as I speak. We'll look to drill North Cobar after Killaloe, and Basin Creek is there ready to go as well when we can get to it. I do think Killaloe has the potential for some high-grade gold type discoveries there. It's well located. We don't really have to find a big deposit there if we want to monetize it. Ideally, that's what we're chasing, though, a big one. But really, I really am excited by the potential for that. When we look to North Cobar and Basin Creek, some great copper gold systems ready to be drill tested. Just a matter of when, not if. And I think, collectively our portfolio is quite exciting. To me, we've only just, brushed the top of it. There's still a lot of other sort of good, well-located tenure that we have that we've yet to really, drill down on. And there is potential for further, good quality targets to come out of that as well. So, we'll actively look to progress our projects, test our targets. If they don't deliver what we expect they to deliver, we'll then offload them and look to obviously find other opportunities to fill the portfolio. So constantly looking to increase our probabilities of success through effective drill testing of our targets. Thanks, Harry. That's it in a brief nutshell.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for your presentation, Andrew, and providing the insights into the company's exploration portfolio, key deposits, and also strategic positioning as well. So I've definitely got my questions prepared. As based on that presentation, I'm sure we'll get a few Q&As come through as well. Looking at the start, you said, I think it was DevEx has about a 30% stake in the business. I think management makes up about 6%.
Right.
How closely do you guys work and collaborate with DevEx, and how influential are they? Does that relationship influence the operational and exploration activities of the business?
So as part of the acquisition, 2 of the DevEx board members came on board for Lachlan Star. So both Stacey and Brendan are directors of both companies. They don't have an active involvement on the day-to-day. They provide a lot of guidance, as I guess directors do, but pretty much a lot of the day-to-day work and direction is done by myself and Alan. So very little direct input, but obviously they're great supporters of the business.
Absolutely. And you mentioned at the start as well, Tim Goyder, he's obviously a major backer of several successful exploration plays. What sort of confidence does that give the business knowing that you've got him in your corner and you know, is there any opportunity for future funding there as well?
Tim is a big backer of people I found. So this is my first role and my first introduction to, I guess, working and being associated with Tim. He's a big believer of projects, particularly of people. So a big sponsor. He continues to buy a market, as do I. We're both big supporters of where this business is. And he is obviously well connected within the industry. So for us, access to capital is not too much of a big concern. He's well connected. He's a big supporter. So if we were to require further funds, definitely having him on the register helps a lot.
Absolutely. What are some of the near-term catalysts for the business? I think you said Killaloe project that the drilling commences in May.
Yes.
So what are the staging and sequencing of drilling campaigns, timing of results, and other key activities as well?
So the aim, we've obviously, as I mentioned, commenced drilling at Killaloe. We're talking about probably a 4-week program there of combined air core and RC. Assay turnaround, we're looking, it's not too actually bad these days for gold assays, probably about 4 weeks. So we'll have most of our results in June, I'd like to think, mid to late June, no later than that. So that's for Killaloe. When we talk to Cobar timing, I'd like to get on ground as soon as I can. Like the guys will be out this month clearing the pads. We could be out there drilling mid to late June, maybe no later than early July. That's a 4,000 meter RC program I've got planned there. So again, we're probably talking another 6 weeks of drilling there. So over the next 2 to 4 to 5 months, there's just a sequence of drilling Killaloe, drilling North Cobar, and then we either circle back to Killaloe based on results, or we move on to test Basin Creek in the back end of the year.
Yeah, very exciting. I can see on the screen there you've got just over 2.5 mil cash on hand as of the end of March. How are you positioned with your cash on hand to fund your planned activities that you've got coming up?
Yep. So we were very cash conscious at the start of this year. We kept everything to a minimum as we were waiting for these permits to come through. So that was obviously the critical path for many of our projects. Now that each of those have come through, we're still very well positioned. We have a lot of that still in the bank. Killaloe will be the first program that we'll obviously look to drill using those funds. Plenty there to test Killaloe. In fact, there's enough there to go and test North Cobar as well. So funding wise, we're pretty well positioned over the next couple of drill programs, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. So Killaloe and Cobar sound like the priority. Is the company actively seeking new projects outside of Junee and Basin's Creek as well?
Always looking to upgrade the portfolio where we can.
Yep.
With exploration, you've got to be very conscious about testing and turning over projects and moving on, because obviously, as I said, there's a time cost to all this. So for us, we're always looking for new projects to bring into the portfolio. Our priority is the Lachlan Fold Belt and the Eastern Goldfields at this stage. We have no interest elsewhere. For us, we see those as being some really good, well-endowed terrains, high prospectivity, and so we kind of actively look to potentially pick up other projects within those areas.
Yeah. You touched on the next 2 to 6 months being very busy with your drilling plans, etc. What key milestones should investors keep an eye out for across the next coming year in regards to exploration results or project developments?
Key milestones would be, I guess, the results coming out of the projects. What I really like about particularly North Cobar itself is that the prize there is quite big. If we can tag another CSA type ore body out there, would be fantastic. In terms of milestones, really it is delivery of the Killaloe drilling and the results therein. It's delivery of the North Cobar and as well as those results, and then beyond that, it's what else is there to test within the portfolio? What other targets can we bring to the forefront? And so there would be the key milestones, I'd say, over the next short while.
Absolutely. And then going beyond the short to medium term, looking more to the long term, Andrew, over the next 3 to 5 years, what do you envision for the business, Lachlan Star? What do you envision, and what steps are you or what steps are being taken to achieve that?
Yeah, so my goal has always been discovery. So I'm obviously a passionate geologist, but really I'm all about making large discoveries. So for me, success for this business is finding that big multi-bagger, discovery. It's always great to find small things along the way. In fact, they're not a bad way to fund a business. You find small deposits, you monetize them, and it actually funds your next round of exploration. So for the business, what I see as success is for us to define a sizable resource within the existing portfolio, and or finding one outside the portfolio that we can bring in, and obviously then moving on to that development stage. So obviously, where a lot of the value is created is through, I have found, is through this discovery. We're all very well aware of the Lassonde curve, and we obviously are aware that your greatest value creation is sometimes through those greenfields grassroots discoveries. And if we can snag one of those, that would be fantastic in the next couple of years.
Absolutely. Well, perfect. Thank you so much, Andrew, for your time this morning and your presentation, and definitely look forward to further development and those results coming out very soon.
Thanks, Harry.
Thank you.